So there's this famous story about the World Health Organization going into Borneo and helping them out with their fly problem. Yeah, there was a fly infestation. It was really bad. And the World Health Organization sends some people in to kill the flies. They're using DDT, chemical that knocks out all the flies. It worked. All the flies died. But the problem is the flies were eaten by the geckos, those little lizards. And as a result, the geckos died. Well, the cats came along and ate the dead geckos, and then the cats all died. And the rats were king. The rats took over. Disease and all sorts of trouble came because these rats were running around unimpeded because their natural enemy, the cat, had effectively disappeared from this island nation. They actually had to airlift cats into Borneo to repopulate from other nations, literally bring in cats to repopulate Borneo. That's unintended consequences for you. You never really think through these things to go, oh boy, here's where this could end. That's the way it is with sin with us. We're like the World Health Organization. We think we can do what we want, when we want, how we want, and we think we can do whatever's good in our own eyes, and there shouldn't be consequences to it. But if you're God, and people truly are free to decide whether to follow you or not, to go the path of the kingdom or to go their own way, how do you bring people to you? How do you get them to see the error of their ways? Well, part of that is consequences. Sin has consequences. The big consequence is death, right? Romans 6:23 says the wages of sin is death. And it's not just that we die physically, but there's an eternal separation from God at death when we die in our sin and we don't turn to Christ. Revelation 21:8 calls it the second death. That is being tossed out of the kingdom for all time in that place called hell. But there's consequences while we live here as well. There's a division between men and women. That's what Genesis chapter 3 verse 16 says. God says, look, there's now going to be this division between you. You're going to be at odds with each other. There's a division between people and the ground. That's what Genesis 3:17 through 19 says. He says, look, you'll still get your food from the ground, but you're going to have to work it. You're going to have to work it hard. And there's going to be all sorts of problems that come up, thistles and thorns, and this is going to be tough work now. So the real question, though, is with this consequence thing, because we all want to get around the consequence, right? And so we ask, why doesn't God fix it now? Why doesn't God take care of the death now? Why doesn't God take care of these divisions that we see among everybody and everything in this world? But aren't we just trying to get around the consequence of our behavior? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Right now, we need consequences. We need them. We don't want there to be consequences. We don't like that idea, but we need them to remind us that we need God, to remind us that this isn't our final home, to remind us that His way is the best way. Now look, later, God's going to take care of all this. The consequences will be done away with, right? There's no longer going to be any death. There's no longer going to be any division. It's all going to be taken care of. But that's the end of this world and the beginning of a completely new one. Until then, we'll always have the consequences around.